hit the record button. Everybody, and welcome to Sonic Talk number 365. That's right, folks, we finally arrived at the day when you can listen to a episode of the show every day for a single year. So that's an hour of Sonic Talk a day. You can't watch them all on video because that goes back to the days when we just used to do MP3. If you haven't watched this before, or if you're listening on MP3, you do know we post this to YouTube now, and so you can watch the fulsome live chat, live video. We've got a live chat room. If I can, I'll bring them in. I'll press the button and they can show up there. There we go. And me and my guests. So I want to say thank you very much to everybody for joining us, and also thanks to our show sponsors, Isotope, of course. We'll be giving away another copy of Iris, the Spectral Synth, and we'll be announcing the winner for last week's competition. Very generous, I must say. So look forward to doing that. And I think that's known as a teaser. We'll be bringing that in a little bit later, but we thank them for their sponsorship of the show. But now we've got a full chat room. After a couple of weeks of sort of smaller gatherings, we've gone for the full Monty, and we've got guests on that we haven't seen for quite some time. So I'm going to start... Well, I'll start with the furthest away, who, of course, is Corey Banks, B-Boy Tech Report. Corey Banks is in charge of spreading the word to his community of R&B and hip-hop, and the way technology affects that in terms of musicality. How are you, Corey?
Good to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well. I know we don't get a chance to see that often because you're on the West Coast, which is, dawn raid kind of vibe. So thank you for making the effort. I can see the sun streaming through your window there.
You were saying, is it too bright? I can.
No, it's absolutely fine. We were saying before the show that you've also been up burning the midnight oil, looking at. You've got sent a modular item to review, right?
Yeah. I got this here, if you can see this.
The Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh modular.
And
incidentally, a day later, this guy showed up.
Okay. Yeah, I got one of those too. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Trouble.
So it's been a lot of fun. And it's been robbing me of sleep. And, I'm sure that's not the last thing it'll rob me of.
Excellent. So this is your first exposure to modular, so now you're hooked, I'm guessing, right? You're going to hang on to it?
Yep. You know what the thing is I don't know a lot of hip hop guys that use modular systems, and if they do, you just don't hear about it a lot. So my quest is to kind of, I guess, show that it can be used in hip hop production, and I've definitely been doing a lot of it in the few days that I've had it. So this is the first me wandering into the whole modular system, and I just may keep it around.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that you've been bitten by the bug, and my commiserations to your family, because all your available cash is going to go, and you'll have no time to play with your kids or be nice to your partner. I'm just terribly sorry, but I'm sure in the interests of music technology, it's great. Anyway, we've also got Jem Godfrey. Look at him. He's there. Finally.
Hello.
Back again. Jem Godfrey, of course, in part of band Frost, sort of session keyboard player, does a lot of music composition, history of production pop music of that kind. And we don't see you very often either, so it's a bumper week for unexpected or guests that we haven't had for a while. So good to see you, Jem.
Likewise, it's good to see you too.
What have you been doing?
What I've been doing, I've been generating lots of content for an app I can't talk about yet.
Oh.
I've been following on from Dave's thing last week. I was watching last week's podcast earlier. I've been buying Profit 600s as well. I've got 2 currently.
Really?
I'm just trying to work out which one I like the look of more, and then I'm going to just tidy up the other one and then probably quietly shift it.
2.
And I've got called Monopoly, or is it Monopoly? I don't know how you say it.
Monopoly. Man after my own heart. It's one of my favourite synthesizers, that is.
So that's just, it's the fattest. It's the fattest thing ever.
Well, and not only that,
fatter than me a year ago.
It's not only that. It's fat, but it's not Moog over fat. You don't have to trim it down. You can sculpt it without having to mess around with EQ to get rid of half of it, because it doesn't hog the mix like a Moog does.
Yeah, and also it's just such a kind of characterful tone as well. It's very definitely Korg, and it's built so beautifully as well.
Yeah, I got one of those. Mine needs fixing.
I'm loving that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad. I'm so glad. That's made me very happy, because not many people get to play with one of those, because I don't know how rare they are, but they're just not. They're somewhat overlooked. So I don't know. So great. Good for you.
Thank you.
And we'll go to Mr. Robbie Bronneman over there in Robot Studios, which is looking very... it's got a sort of Berlin techno vibe to it today. It's got that sort of blue light with what I can see. It's interesting. It looks... The way that your modular's set up and the speaker behind it looks like the speaker is actually embedded in the side of the case. It looks really cool. Yeah. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And what's that? Is that a Roland drum machine? Is that a TR-8 over there?
Yeah, but it's a friend of mine from Roland, a guy called Dan Burton, lent me it, and he's actually customised it with all vintage Roland knobs.
Sweet.
Oh,
that looks like off the MEP5 effects, doesn't it? That's pretty.
That's pretty cool. So he just lent it to me for a couple of weeks just to see what I thought, just because he popped by the other day. So that's going to be a bit fun next week when we do our Sushi Friday.
Oh, excellent. Of course, Robbie, not only MD for Howard Jones, but also part of the Sushi Friday music duo, who are kind of documenting the making of an album using a lot of analog kit and sort of real-time jams. And so I've got to ask you, how are you finding it? Have you used it? Have you switched it on and tried it out yet, or have you hadn't had a chance?
I turned it on yesterday and I shoved it through some things it probably should never be shoved through, like the audio damage, grain delay, and all that kind of thing. So I haven't really had a proper, sensible play with it yet. But I'm loving all the lights. I can't complain there.
Excellent. I'm very pleased.
Yeah. I'll report back when I know something more meaningful.
Okay, cool. And finally, but not leastly, Gaz Williams over there in Bristol, who's in his garret, bass player, extraordinaire, music technologist, and you've been doing a lot of mixing, right, Gaz?
Yep, been on a mixing job for the marvellous new William D. Drake album. He was formerly the keyboard player in Cardiacs, which... For those of you who know, Cardiacs are possibly the greatest cult band of all time. And for those of you who don't know, check them out straight away, because they've been going since the 70s, late 70s. And they combined like classical music with punk. You know, it's a most bizarre combination of sounds. But Bill was the keyboard player in the classic lineup. And has been solo for the last sort of maybe 20 years, I think. And I've gone from being a huge fan to working as like a producer for him. So for me, it's a great honor to be working with him. But so doing mixing the album. The album was recorded by some other people, and it's a real pleasure to come in at this stage and just to be kind of. They're beautiful recordings, so to be mixing is a real pleasure and a privilege.
What are you mixing in, out of interest? What's the environment you're using?
Cubase.
Oh, okay.
And I have to say that the visibility thing in Cubase, you know, if you're working with a small fader bank, like 8 faders or whatever, the visibility thing is wonderful in Cubase. You basically now can just go select a track. You know, so I want the kick drum, I want the bass guitar, I want the piano, and then I've just got a shortcut key, bang, and then my mixer is just displaying those, but also my screen is only displaying those as well.
Oh, so like grouping shortcuts?
No, well, kind of, but my arrangement screen is only showing the 3 tracks, so everything else is gone. My mixer screen is only showing the 3 tracks as well, and my control surfaces are following that as well. And it's all in one shortcut, so just go select, bang, and then it just simplifies the mix. So rather than always looking at many tracks, you just only ever look at what you ever need to see. And it's a brilliant way of working, and I'm really enjoying it.
Carry on.
I'm also enjoying working in Chris Powell's studio. It's a brand new studio built in Bristol, and it's like a low riding studio. And I think it's the future, you know. It's all beanbags. We're just sitting back, reclining on beanbags, giant ATT monitors, minimal, no other equipment, just a few little control surfaces, laying right back on the bean bags and mixing. And it's a beautiful way of working, because I think music is just such a relaxing, or it should be. So relaxing, just a few control surfaces, as I say, select whatever tracks, bang. I'm only ever dealing with what I'm currently dealing with. I think for the head and the soul, I think it's really,
sounds very
it's
interesting.
really crucial.
That sounds like a very interesting way to work. Well, Gaz, thank you very much for sharing that. Let's get on with our topics then. The first one is... how could I forget?
Hi, I'm Dave Smith. Last year, we introduced what I called my best synth yet, the Prophet 12. This year, we set out to make the ultimate monosynth, and the result is the new Pro 2. It's not just one voice of the Prophet 12, though, so let's take a look. It retains the same great ergonomics and playability, but...
Oh, cool. I'm not going to play all of this, but we did speculate. There was we were in the midst of the teaser campaign last week as to what the new Dave Smith synth would be. And we thought maybe an FM synth, rather jokingly. And there was also the thought it'd be a new updated Pro 1. And I'm guessing it sort of is, although it has very little else to do with the Pro 1, apart from, I guess, it's got a sequencer on it. But who'd have thunk it? It's like, it's a big old mono synth, well, paraphonic, as everybody seems to be doing now. Thoughts? Robbie, you're a fan of Dave Smith. And what are you thinking about this?
Yeah, I'm liking it, and it's funny because I was just chatting to them last week, umming and ahhing whether I was going to get rid of my Prophet 8 and get the Prophet 8 module and the Prophet 12 module, because I haven't got a lot of space for more big 5-octave synths and stuff. But I think I might just be able to squeeze another 3-octave synth in. So no, I'm liking it. I think it make a great partner to what I've got, and I love the sequencer on it. That seems like really inspirational to work with. So. Yeah, I'm very, very, very excited to see it. I think we'll probably drop in and see them on tour because we're playing in San Francisco, and we usually try and go and see them at their offices. So I'll go and have a little look at it then.
Nice. That sounds like great fun. So what is it about it specifically that you think it's got that you might need that you don't already have?
I just like the idea. I mean, obviously with the Prophet 8, you've got much more of a traditional analog signal path, and I have got the mono involver keyboard as well, but I like, after playing with the Howard's Prophet 12, I really liked the kind of gnarly sounds you could get from those digital oscillators. So I think it's probably a nice complement to those two. So yeah, the Prophet 12 is such a lovely instrument. It's built so nicely, and this is obviously just looks like a kind of squashed down version. So very good.
Thrilling. That's
Would be really cool. The only thing I thought would be really cool would be if you could program a Prophet 12 module from this keyboard. That'd be nice.
Well, I think a lot of them will do CC out, but you probably have to do a bit of mapping and stuff. I'm not sure. Yeah. Corey, do I see some Dave Smith equipment in your studio somewhere, or am I?
Yeah, it's the Prophet 8.
Okay.
It's a new addition because I have a few mono synths and I wanted something that was polyphonic. So that keeps happening to me though. I got a Voyager, and then the Sub 37 was announced. And, although I like the Voyager, I kind of looked at the Sub 37 like, oh, check that out. So now I got the Prophet 8, and the P1 is there, but there's a P12 and stuff. So, yeah, I think it's sound, and I know that they're a bit different because that one has a kind of, digital signal path, or what is it, digital
oscillators.
Controllers or something. Digital oscillators. So, it's obviously a little different, but I'm interested to check it out. I'd like it's kind of compact. Sounds like it has a huge sound, and it has a lot of little tricks up its sleeve. So I'd be interested to check it out at some point.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Jem? I mean, you're a player, so I mean, this is obviously going to be geared up for that kind of classic. It's the actual, to be able to play a monosynth is actually, not an inconsiderable talent. I mean, do you find, with the Monopoly and your other stuff that you're actually kind of thinking in terms of performance? Would this fulfill your needs? Are you tempted? I can see a space that fit in.
I've already got a Pro 12, so and I love that. It's a huge, big sort of slab of a thing, and it is, as Robbie was saying, it's so beautifully built. and you got like the resonator in it, which makes everything just like go bleh, and it's a fantastically filthy, dirty synth. So I just see this as kind of being a continuation of that, really. And I think it's as you said, everyone seems to be doing paraphonic synths at the moment, and I think there's that. It's lovely. It's nice to move beyond it just being a monosynth. If you want to have that like the monopody as well. Yeah, I mean, it looks great. I think it's a good size. I think if you don't want to have the big old real estate as well, I think it's brilliant.
Well, it'll do the paraphonics side of things, so you get, which everybody seems to be doing now. It's kind of the latest thing. But the other thing that's very interesting about it is the kind of character effects, and I'm guessing there's the 12 have that as well, which are kind of sort of overall tonal characteristic shapings. I mean, almost like and effects. I mean, do you find you use that a lot in working with sounds?
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like the thing I use the most, because you can assign them to because it's got the ribbons, it's two little ribbon things as well from the Tempest, I think it is, and that it's amazing how much extra control you get using those. They're like the air and the girth and all that kind of stuff.
Girth.
Girth.
It's a good analog word, girth, isn't it?
It's a marvelous analog word. So yeah, it's I think just in terms of control, it's brilliant, because you can take a really simple sound, but then just because of all the extra elements, the decimator and all the things you can add to it, within no time at all, you've got this really, chunky sound to work with. And I think if that was in a monosynth format, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite similar, because the I've just put out the review, part one of the review of the Roland Iris System 1, and that's got, it's got a tone control, which I'm sure is doing more than just bass and treble. It really affects the character of the sound. You can bring it down to be sort of more girth-like or more fizz, or fizz and airy-like. I'm wondering if that's a trend that we're seeing in the same way that we're seeing, paraphonic is starting to happen a lot more, whether we're going to see tone shaping that's kind of almost like character-specific, broader strokes that you can apply that are manufacturer centric, if you see what I mean. I know, Gaz, you feeling an urge again? I know how you like to buy new synthesizers.
Well, I'm kind of interested in the System 1, actually. I think the Prophet looks great, but I mean, I think it's out of my price budget, really, for synths. And, I really should be sort of getting on with the ones I've got here. But the Roland, I mean, because I know I've been a big fan of the Gaia for its faults. I love the programmability of the Gaia, and I really find it's a synth I turn to often because of the ease of use. What did you think with the System 1 in that respect? Did you find that the layout of it was good? I know you've done a review of it, but I'm
yes. Well, actually, I think the layout is fine. I mean, it's always nice to have a synth with sort of knob per function kind of functionality, because you could just zoom around it very quickly, and it's a very familiar control layout. There's nothing kind of that, where's this, where's that. The only thing it has is only got a single LFO, and you can only modulate all of the oscillators and the sub together. You can't, say, for instance, sync the oscillators and then modulate one of them.
Wow, okay.
You could turn down oscillator 2 or oscillator 1 and modulate the only one that's oscillator 2, and that sort of stuff is like, those are the sort of thing, the little nuances that kind of take it to a different level. I mean, it's not a bad synthesizer, and I love the fact that it's got a delay included, because I think and I probably mentioned that last week as well. For the but it's a completely different league in price, isn't it? It's like 500 quid, just under 500 quid, probably be a bit less once it's finally hit the deck. There is actually also a plug out coming for that, which I think tomorrow there's going to be a live event at SSR, which is Mike Greig, who's been on the show a couple of times. They're unveiling the SH101, which is the first plug-out module that's going to be for it. And as soon as that's kind of hit, I'm going to be getting that and try it in here. And then I'm going to do another review, which will have more about the sort of MIDI-CC, the sequencer, and all the other stuff, and see how the plug-out kind of thing works. So I'm not against it, and I've enjoyed it. It's one of those things that you, like the Gaia, you can reach for and go, oh, I just want to try that, and you just do it. You don't have to kind of go, oh, wait, where's that in the menu? And that, I think people who kind of perhaps don't value that so highly because they may be used to more presets rather than programming, that I think that's a really quite a big factor in terms of making an instrument, because if you've got a menu dive, it's like Jem, I think, hasn't the Poly 600 the Prophet 600 got a bit of menu diving, or is it all knob per function? I can't remember now.
No, it's just it's no screen or anything. It's just not for function.
Right. Okay. I couldn't remember because I know there's one. Maybe it's the 6-track. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, the 6-track's got it. I'd move it over, but it's in.
Yeah, no, it's plugged in. That's fair enough. You could look at it and we could just imagine it's there. In fact, I was my Schmidt over here. I can't possibly move that. It's much too heavy. So
Clang.
The one thing I would say, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, because we got the DSi Pro 2. So what's next? We're going to have the 7-track, the Prophet T9. There's you could still got a lot of places he can go, isn't there? There's the Prophet 700, or if he wanted it, he could Prophet 601, and then you can iterate up like endlessly with those. So you can mine that sort of forever, pretty much, I would say.
Do a new VS, Prophet VS, get him to. I'd be interested to see what he does with more along the digital and analog combination.
What would that be? That would be a Prophet. What do you think, Prophet YS or Prophet VT? I don't know.
But I mean, I think we're seeing more and more of this digital controlled analog, and that's the area that I am really interested in. The electron analog keys, for instance, just the amount of control you've got is, it's very exciting. So I'm intrigued to see people like Dave Smith, take that marriage further.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we will see Dave Smith going in that direction a lot. When I talked to him at NAMM, that's kind of where he was coming from. Like, he's like, I know everybody loves all of the classic analog stuff, all the stuff from 20, 30 years ago, but he says he's more interested in doing new things with combining the two worlds and all the great new technology. So I can easily see that being the direction he's going in, and where he's going to go with new products and stuff. We'll probably see a lot more of that, as we can see with his last couple products.
Yeah, although if you've looked at the Pro, the video for the Pro 2, at one point he's saying, because it's got CV in and out on 4 channels of CVIO, which is really interesting to me. But if you notice, there was a shot of a Dave Smith Instruments module in the Eurorack, which everybody just went, "Wow, this is amazing!" I don't know, Robbie. Is that something you're going to pick up when you head to San Francisco?
Oh, I don't know. I've got this ridiculously, I don't know what it is, obsession about getting a Moog source. I've had it for about 4 years. I look at eBay every other week looking for a Moog source that's in good condition. I don't know why I want this Moog source. I just love the look of it.
I know what you mean.
I know basically it's what I've got in a Voyager. But every time I'm just always thinking, I just love a Moog source. And then I just think, why do I want this Moog source?
There's something of the speak and spell about it, isn't there?
I know. It's just, and they're never in good condition, really, because all the aluminium coating's flaking off, and I just can't deal with something like that. So
no. That's going to be your life's work, I think, finding one of those. The thing I liked about it is that data wheel on it is just sort of heft. It's got this kind of inertia to it, so you spin it and it's got like this momentum.
I've got a cushion.
Yeah. Awesome. That is great. Where'd you get that, man? That's brilliant.
That was from Etsy, the website. They do like a whole range of mini Moogs and all sorts of other ones.
That's fab.
Yeah.
That might have to be it. That is really cool.
Yes, they're called soft machines.
And I imagine, knowing how strong Moog are on the branding issue, you probably can't get them anymore unless they license.
I sit on it and think, one day I'll have one.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's a great substitute, though. I'm very happy for you.
And also, it looks like it's got the same keyboard action as System 1.
Yeah. Yes, well, there is that. I should, if I just bring the System 1 into play, I can show you what keyboard action the System 1 has, which is very shallow travel, but it's got no velocity, so it's not really an issue. So it's not like there needs any feel, because it's just basically just off on. So there is no velocity on the System 1. So you're not missing out on anything, I suppose, there. And it's not hard to play. It's a nice playing surface. It's fine. But then I'm not really much of a keyboard player, so it probably wouldn't bother me either way. I mean, where I draw the line is the touch keyboard on the Monotron. That's where I kind of think, that ain't going to work for me. let me have a look. Right, so anyway, what I should probably do is say thank you to our sponsors at this point, because right now we're obviously going to, after the ad, we announce the winner of the competition and we're going to set a new one. So in the meantime, talk amongst yourselves. I'm just going to play a note from our sponsors. At least that's the idea. Go on then. There we are. Isotope, of course. Isotope, continued sponsor of the Sonic Talk podcast. We very much appreciate it. Iris, in fact, does have a connection with the show because we were discussing RX3 and we thought about a synthesizer using that technology, and this is kind of partly due to our speculation. It's a natural intuitive selection tool. You can manipulate your audio visually and see an image of your sound and draw and select individual events. Works on samples up to 4 layers, multiple loops. You can sound sculpt and draw warm, lush filters, delays, reverbs, chorus and distortions for each layer. It's basically a visual instrument that's perfect for inspiration and sonic experimentation. There are plenty of sound libraries as well. You can mix the sound of wood, glass, food, toys or found sounds anywhere you like, as well as crazy modular synths and pitch percussion with the Iris expansion pack. You can get a free 10-day trial at isotope.com/Iris. Well worth checking out. It's a very different way of working with sound and really awesome. And in fact, as you know, Isotope are giving away competition prizes every week, and this week again is you get a copy of Iris. But last week's winner, and let me just scroll down, is a chap called 15th Sign, a Twitter user at 15th Sign. He tweeted the hashtags and mentioned both of us. I want to congratulate him for winning. If he just gets in touch with me, I could get the Isotope Fairy to email him his prize. But this week, the prize is the same. You can win Isotope Iris. What you need to do, you need to be on Twitter. You need to send out the hashtag sound design. Don't forget the 2 Ds in there, to @SonicNick and @Isotope Inc. I've got a little sort of search filter that's following that, and I capture all the entries and then we pick a random winner from that. So if you want to win Isotope Iris, it's a full version of Iris, by the way. It's not, not a demo or anything. Send the hashtag sound design @SonicNick and @Isotope. And please, if you've got spare you will have a few spare characters there, so add a comment. It's always nice to have feedback with it as well. So once again, we thank Isotope for their sponsorship of the show. I'll just mention that at the end of the show as well, just before we go, so if you didn't catch it. But congratulations to 15th Sign for winning this week. Right, what is next? Oh yeah, touring. Not like it used to be, eh? This is quite an interesting idea, because I think there's an article on that's actually titled "The Hidden Benefits of Going Broke on Tour." This is by Michael Corcoran on Sonic Bid's blog, which is quite an interesting blog, and it's just sort of came into my field of vision through one of the Reddits that I check regularly. CEO of MusicSubmit.com, an internet promotion and publicity firm, so I'm guessing he's got a vested interest. But it's an interesting point, and essentially the sort of thesis is, there's sort of that whole notion of getting in the back of the van and touring to build your fan base is sort of obsolete, at a low level, because you probably do just as well having a Facebook page and social media and posting a few videos on YouTube in terms of gathering your fans. And then the trick really is to figure out where they are and go to them, rather than just schlep around the country and just kind of hope that somebody shows up. Because, I mean, these days there's nothing really as dull as going to all that effort and playing to, half a room or less of people who weren't really interested. They're only there for the main band. And now, I'm guessing this is perhaps... well, I think we'll go to you, Robbie, because you're touring at a higher level. The sort of gigs you're playing are kind of arenas, halls, that sort of stuff. I mean, does that get worked? Does that work? You work it with the social... how are those tours planned?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, gigging is hard for anybody on any level, really. I mean, apart from, the very small, like 1% of people who are going to always fill out stadiums and arenas, etc. But I mean, it's a real art putting together a tour and making a tour not lose money for anybody. There's so many factors that are involved, and it is important that you do work out places where you've particularly got very strong fan bases. There's certainly, I know with Howard, there's certain places in America we go to. Like places like Salt Lake City and various places like that, where he's got exponentially more fans than other places, and we can sell out places there that we wouldn't do perhaps if we went to somewhere like, I don't know, New York or whatever. So I think it is it's a very savvy way of looking at touring. But I mean, it is very difficult on whatever level touring, to make the figures add up. You don't want to be in that position where you are just hemorrhaging money all the time touring. You have to have a reason for doing it.
Yeah, most definitely. And Gaz, I know you kind of do a number of gigs and you've toured at higher levels, but I mean, there are got to be benefits to a low-level tour as well, because I mean, it bonds the band and there are aspects to it that are a great advantage to a group of kind of up-and-coming musicians, right?
Yeah, and I think that article kind of rightly sort of puts it that if you can deal with that kind of situation, which can be so grim, I mean...
I never forget your story of the dog's arse on your face in the tour van. That was just awesome.
Happy time.
And the rest, and years of it. So you do definitely learn to be less fussy about stuff when you do that, when you do it the hard way. But it makes having nice gigs all the more worth it, though. But what I notice especially is, if you do low-level gigs in Europe, you get treated so much better than low-level gigs in Britain. Oh, it's the low-level gigs in Britain, you can drive a long way, get not even a drink or anything, nothing, no fee, no food, no drink, nothing, no thanks. Nothing. No.
You want to sack your agent. You want to sack your agent, yeah.
So really, the company of your bandmates is everything on those things. So as a way of developing those relationships and just living much more communally. But we have a word that we use when we're on tour, and it's all the food that you get from garages, service stations, and the like. We just call it chod. CHOD, and the chod bill on a small tour can just get into the low millions. I swear, it's
well, because you're coming back from a gig in the middle of the night. There is nothing else but a service station. The SO pasty is all you have at your disposal. I'm guessing that can happen, right?
Well, and the Costa Coffee takeover that's happening in Britain at the moment. There's six Costa Coffees. You get accosted by a Costa Coffee now. It's like
M&S at the services. That's
true.
Isn't it?
That's true. I know, Corey. I don't know how it is in the States, because obviously you've got a much bigger landmass and longer distances to travel. I mean, I guessing from a kind of hip hop point of view, there's probably a lot less stuff to carry around, because traditionally the shows are kind of more playback and live mics kind of centric. I mean, that's a massive generalization, but generally speaking, I mean, is touring happening so much there, or is it falling away?
Well, you know what? There's this thing that happens. So there's kind of the underground superheroes kind of. So you got guys that are not signed to major labels, but they're the independent hip hop guys. They're touring a lot. They're making a lot of money touring. But then you have obviously the mainstream guys at a major label, and they do massive world tours. But when it comes to sort of the underground heroes, there's a lot of small clubs or medium-sized clubs or maybe House of Blues type of places, which aren't as big as we may think they are as far as sizes and most times. Sure. So, I mean, it's a lot of it going around, but like you said, a hip-hop setup, I mean, what do you have? A DJ, couple guys on the mic, and maybe a keyboard player nowadays, because there's a lot of that going on. But when I was doing a lot of shows, being from Chicago, I've done a lot of clubs and decent sized places in Chicago. So I had a band, and it was sort of like the Roots. So it was a hip hop band, and that is just a headache. Although I love being with the guys, and that there's an organic kind of synergy of it. And I even had the same kind of setup when I moved to LA initially. But, that touring and doing shows, just moving around in California as long and as big as it is, that's such a headache. I don't know how people do it on a regular basis. I mean, it was becoming a headache. I had a lot better time when I pared it down just to me and a DJ. Right. And I see why that's usually a setup. But, I don't know how people do that.
And I guess the point is, if you've got a small setup, Well, I mean, you either need to do, if you just do occasional gigs, then it's really hard to hold on to personnel. At least if you're on tour, they can't get away, and they can't.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got, they're sort of captive. I know, Jem, you've done quite a lot of big sort of touring stuff as well. I mean, but presumably at some point in your career, it wasn't always like that. Do you see much of that going on at a kind of roots level now in the UK? It seems to be less so, right?
No, yeah, I think because obviously my band being a prog rock band, that most popular music form, it's kind of pretty tough to do it now. And just going on with what Gaz was saying about chod, the downside, there's also terrible health benefits of touring. Like you just 3-4 days of eating chod, suddenly it's all spots and pimples and God knows what else. It's kind of, I just find it massively demoralising, certainly touring in the UK or gigging in the UK, just because it's such a thankless task at that level. I'm quite depressed just talking about it.
I'm sorry, but surely I guess maybe European wide and larger land masses, it makes sense to have that kind of social media kind of network and figure out where people are and go to them and say, right, because you could almost, I mean, there are bands that do it, don't they? They do a Kickstart campaign and say, right, we're going to do a tour, we're going to get enough people to sort of pre-buy to means that we can hire the van or whatever, or make us commit to it, and then we'll go out and then they use the social media to get around to those places. I mean, that's the sort of thing that means you can work smarter at a higher level. I mean, obviously with stuff like a prog band, you've got a lot of kit. I mean, you can't possibly gig without at least 2 A-frame multi-tier keyboard rigs, surely.
Well, actually, I try and keep it to just a Kronos, actually, because it's just that thing of I want to be the member of the band that doesn't, it's normally the drummer that's still there setting down after I'm like 25 miles up the M25. It's just that thing of it's about working smarter at that sort of level, because you've got to, the practicality of doing gigs is you really want to sort of get in, get the job done, and get out. And if you want to make it as painless as possible,
yeah,
as much as possible, because we're certainly at the level we're at. We don't have a tour manager; we have to run it ourselves. It's a little bit Blue Peter.
Smashing. I just want to say, Rich Hilton's in the chat room, and he was mentioning that there we go, if you're not doing it for love at this point, then you're not going to keep doing it. And he was saying that his kids are touring and they have to sort of sleep in, they have bands sleep in his living room, people sleep in the car or something. In fact, I remember a gig, I did a gig in South Wales at where were Port Talbot at I forget the name of the club, the one that's under the flyover, and the car broke down on the way back, and we got towed into the outskirts of Cardiff, and it was a compact car, and we had a 15-inch bass rig in the back, and all the seats were really far forward, and we just got left there outside the garage, which was going to open in about 4 hours, and we had to sleep in the front seats of this car. And we were woken up by the bin men who were sort of tapping on, because we all had our stage clothes on, looked like, but back in the day when you actually bothered dressing up, we looked like a bunch of nutters. And that's I did do a bit of that touring, but yes, I think there's just less money in it, which is surprising, really, because the cost of alcohol and the other stuff that they can make on ticket sales and stuff, I'm sure it must be going up, but everything else is just not so. So it's hard to find the finance, I think.
Cost of fuel's got up a third in 5 years, hasn't it?
Yeah,
more
well,
or
there's
less,
that too. If you're doing long distance, then that's really, really tough. Really tough, definitely. Yeah. Anyway, it's not all depressing though. There are some good news stories. And anyway, but on the plus side, there are some very creative individuals who are using the internet medium to do stuff like this. Oh look, it's a Prophet 6-track, DSI 6-track.
Yeah.
This is 20 Sil, I hope I'm pronouncing that, French producer, and this is the video for his track Kodoma, I think it's called. OP1 there. I like to think they are actually performing this live, and this isn't actually just being made. Just a brilliant video. I'm not going to play much of it because I keep getting busted for this. I keep getting busted by YouTube, who are actually tightening the screws on all their copyright stuff. This is news, right? It's a promotional video. I'm using it to discuss the band, and I still get busted for it. It makes me so cross. But anyway, awesome stuff. And, you know, it does require quite a lot of inventiveness. I don't know, I mean, because from an outside point of view, I mean, I don't really operate in the hip-hop world, but it seems like, you know, a lot of times the videos are perhaps not as creative as that in many ways. It's like a kind of performance thing. I mean, I guess that you get the excitement or what have you, but that was great, wasn't it? That's just a brilliant idea. And I wonder,
that was really dope. Yeah, I love what they were doing right there. I'm gonna have to go watch the whole thing. That was dope. I mean, it sounded dope. It looked interesting, and you know, it's kind of like almost like watching an action movie where there's something going on over there, there's something going on over there. Like the Transformers fighting, that video was kind of like like that. There's a little action at every bit of the screen. I liked it.
It's really cool. If you want to check it out, there's it's 20 Sil. That's 20 SYL, French producer, kind of creative, and the video is directed by a bloke who's got the best name called Matthew Ledude. I just think that is flipping awesome. I know, Robbie, have you kind of? I mean, because you're doing as well as the stuff you do with Howard. You know that a lot of the stuff you're doing is kind of high pop as well, or certainly stuff that would have videos fun for. Do you ever get involved in the kind of conceptual aspect of the videos, or is it, you know, you out the door and that's it?
No, sometimes independent artists, though, I mean, I work with, they do ask my advice and stuff like that. And I do like to try and sort of give them any kind of input, you know, because everybody, you know, particularly if they're not linked to a label, you know, they're wanting to get as much as they can from whoever they can, you know, in terms of advice. So sometimes I get stuck in and give people ideas. I get really hot on artwork because I would have trained as a graphic designer if I hadn't done music. So I'm the font police. So I'm always very happy to wade in about fonts and stuff and artwork with people.
Is the Eurostyle font in your lower third acceptable to you? It seems to be coming back into fashion now. You know. So anyway, I mean, I do like to. I'm working with a guy at the moment. He's getting this really great girl from South Africa to do him an animated video, and it's really good. She's just up and coming, but it's great. There's so many people out there at grassroots level doing great video stuff, I think. Yeah, and it's so much easier to do with the availability of all this stuff. And Gaz, you've shot your own videos, haven't you, for the Rumbelows and presumably other projects as well. I mean, it's just easy to kind of get creative and get it done as well. That's part of the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, multi-camera shoots with everybody's phones. it's very doable now. I mean, it's just there needs to be some. I think when you're making multi-camera shoots now, is there an app that can just that can make everything record and everything
sync? What sync, recording sync? Well,
so one phone could be just the starts and stops, because the amount of storage on those devices is generally quite limited. So it'd be just nice just to have one remote. I don't know. Does that exist?
I don't know if it does, but that's a great idea. So you just have a record button.
Bluetooth, everything starts recording.
Yeah, or what'd be really cool is if it all had an app on it as well, so that it hit record. But what happened is it just went 3, 2, 1. And then they all went in, so they had time to synchronize. That's a great idea. I know that there have been kind of attempts at doing multi-camera stuff with certainly iOS devices, because the cameras in those are, you know, as we know, are pretty good. But I don't know about that. I mean, what also is useful to just be able to synchronize the bloody things as well, so that, you know, because obviously you can't do that without timecode and stuff unless you've got apps that are designed to sync the audio. I don't know. Jem, you made any videos?
Not once for broadcast.
Good Lord.
The band we shot a DVD Christmas before last at Rockfield, if that counts. So that was a multi-camera thing. But that was more of a performance.
But that makes sense, doesn't it? Because you're all there, you're all doing your thing, and then you just kind of
It's kind of the quickest way of doing it, although it took about 6 months to put together. But it's just it's a bit of a. I have a bit of a fear of it. I should kind of conquer that fear, really, because it's that kind of. I end up sort of thinking, I'm a studio person, and you have to kind of do the performing thing, and I think there's a different mindset as to switch in, and also working with people filming you. It's bizarre. I can go on stage in front of a couple of thousand people and be fine, but if there's like two guys with a camera, I'm a bit like, so I don't know. It's trying to get over the fear of being filmed.
Yeah, Red Light Fever from a video point of view is definitely very different to anything else. In fact, I was just saying we just acquired this camera here, which is unfortunately not quite as advertised, but still great. It's a full HD robotic pan tilt zoom with with HDMI and SD out. But sadly, because we went for the cheaper model, it doesn't have full manual control. So if you move the shot, the color changes, and it's a bit of a drag. But we're getting there. But anyway, I'm massively into video, obviously, because it's part of what we do here to a great degree. But if you want to check that out, there's a new there's an EP. It's from the EP Motifs, which I don't think is a reference to the Yamaha keyboards. Looking at that video, there were no Yamahas in it, so I'm guessing definitely not. But yes, if you spotted, there was an Akai MPC XL 6-track, OP1, Moga Foga pedal, and various other sort of interchangeable bits of equipment, including a bowl of M&Ms, which I think every video should probably have it anyway. Okay, we've got a couple. Maybe we could do a couple more. Here, what's the time? Yeah, we got plenty of time. Right, this one was good. I'm going to hit the go. Trigger Finger Pro, so the M Audio new kind of control surface, beats orientated, got a sequencer built in and stuff. I know it was announced some time back. We may have talked about it, but I've had it in for review recently, and I'm just kind of intrigued to know how it's being accepted, really, because obviously we know that Corey, with in the hip hop community, there's MPC is kind of king, isn't it, in terms of composition? And
without a doubt, it's the golden standard.
And is it purely the interface, or is it the samples? I mean, because obviously the pad interface, there's you've got the all the other iMPC and various other MPCs that don't actually have the brains inside it; they're just control. And the Trigger Finger Pro was also a huge one of the first. Well, the Trigger Finger, the original, was probably one of the first sort of beats orientated MIDI controller, and sold tons of. I mean, was that a big sell into hip hop and R&B?
Actually, I understand it was huge. I didn't really get into it much, but I do know that when I saw the new Trigger Finger, there was a lot of people that were hitting me up because they knew I was at NAMM and checked it out. A lot of people were interested in it, and then it has the addition of the the little sequencer at the bottom, the sort of step sequencer or whatever it is. And so, I mean, a lot of people are interested in it. But you know what? What's killing me is that it seems that a lot of the MPC, the name, the usage of the pads is it's bastardized. It's on everything. So it's with everything. They got turntable setups with MPC pads, and it's always genuine MPC pads. But I got to tell you, when I touch these things, they're all a little different as far as the feel and touch. However, I am thinking about checking out that the piece you just mentioned. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank because I got some people delivering some stuff here. Yeah, the Trigger Finger Pro. But it's not one of the things that I'm super into. But I do know a lot of cats that's looking forward to it and can't wait till it comes out. But yeah, it's definitely one of the original pieces there, and it does have a nice feel on the pads. This one particularly.
Yeah, I would say that as well. I think I just want to say Captain Birdseye Fish Finger Pro. Very good there. Nice gag in the chat room there by Sonic Hedgehog. The other thing about the Trigger Finger Pro is it comes with this kind of plug-in host that you can bring. There's a plug-in that's called Air Drums, which allows you to address 64 pads of sample layering and that sort of thing. And that actually is quite interesting because then you get there's an Arsenal protocol. It does MIDI protocol, it does Mackie and Huey, so you can granularize various different parts. You can have the pads as MIDI or Mackie or Arsenal. You can have the knobs as either of those. You can have the faders as either of those, and the buttons and the transport. And so there's quite a lot of. That's the other thing that's quite interesting about it. But so it allows you to access the parameters of any plugin that you pull into the host, which can then run as a plugin inside your DAW. So it's quite an interesting, elegant way of doing things. So, that's quite interesting. I know, Jem, you're a keyboard player, right? I mean, have you got any pads in your setup? Do they have a place?
I had Machine for a bit, and I didn't understand it, so I sold it. Just because it's that host within a host thing I find a bit hard to get my head around. Because it's almost like you've baked your cake and then you put another cake in the middle of it. I don't know, it seems a bit odd.
I see what you
But
mean.
I think that's because I'm a keyboard player, you know. And I had push for a while, which was great, but then I got the little Nervation Mini thing, which runs the sort of push style sort of zoning on it, and I'm using that now, trying to sort of get the hang of it.
All right, okay.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's one more thing to lose, or for my kids to break or eat.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that, but I mean it's a different interface, but it's a standard, isn't it? Gaz, I mean I know you were big in Machine, and you looked at you looked at the Machine. Oh God, I've got a blank now. Are you using pads in your setup? I mean, is this something that you would consider? Because I must admit, when I first got it, I was like, I didn't get it, but it comes with a massive bank of actually pretty cool sounds that I didn't discover for a bit. That kind of makes it more in the mold of Machine.
I mean, Machine is definitely the closest competitor, I suppose, to the Trigger Finger Pro. I mean, I've got lots of pads in this studio, pad controllers. I've got the Machine, I've got the Cuneo, I've got the Korg KP, I've got the Steinberg PD controllers. What else have I got? I've got some others as well. So yes, so there's plenty of pad controllers in here. And I think, well, coming back to the comparison to Machine, I think it'd be quite interesting to do a head-to-head with those devices, really, because Machine offers loads of interesting workflows that go beyond maybe the initial inspiration of the MPC. But you do kind of hit these sequencing limitations with Machine quite early on. And for me, that scuppers its use as a standalone. It's really nice working standalone. It's fantastic, So rather than doing it as an embedded thing, maybe build your entire backing track within the one thing. But, because we've got our DAW paradigm that we work to, when those things don't quite have enough within the standalone thing, then you need to run it inside of something, and then it starts to convolute the process a little bit. So I'm interested with, does Arsenal, does that sequence in Arsenal then?
No, the hardware is what happens the sequencer, and that's where it does the kind of mix and match, does kind of get, because you've got a hardware sequencer and you've got a transport control, and the transport control will work over Mackie, so it will control your host DAW, but it also controls the sequencer, and you can't decouple it. So if you've got a sequence running in it and you're trying to place it, it's sort of a little bit, actually I don't want that, I've got to clear the sequence, but you can record any sequences that you've recorded, in standalone mode into a pattern, and then play that back through the same instance. So I mean, all that it's sort of, it kind of works, but I think you're probably right, and in some ways that's probably where the two schools differ, because Corey, like you were saying, in a kind of MPC style, you're working with a piece of hardware and you create your music within that. It's not happening in the DAW. I mean, you find that you're more, I mean, I guess you use MPC as well, or have done. Was it a difficult transition? Yeah. And is it a difficult transition to come from MPC world into DAW world? Because if you're recording vocals and stuff like that, then you kind of need that as well. But the integration is the tricky part, right?
Yeah, the integration has always been that thing, that tough part about it. So that's why when things like Machine happen and things like the REN and Studio and all that stuff happened, where the integration to the computer became, integral to the usage of those machines, it was real important. But see, I've gone back and forth between the two. I use Logic Pro. So there was a point, like when I moved from Chicago to LA, I pretty much sold everything, all of my old MPC 2000 XL and everything. And I just it came down to me and a controller, my laptop, and Logic. And so I had to get used to an entirely different way of working, and I worked that way for years, actually. And it's quite a feat to figure out how to get that same swing and that same feel and that same girth, back to that term again, from the instruments inside of a DAW that you would on like a hardware MPC. So my heart is always with like hardware MPCs. Even now, I have a bunch of different, like the Cuneo and the MPC Studio and a lot of different things, but I'm still drawn back to my standalone hardware MPC, because obviously too, then I have hardware synths and stuff, and I just kind of like that workflow, and I don't think I'll ever grow out of that. So I'll always have some sort of hardware NPC. If this one was to die tonight, which maybe it did last night, but that's a different story. But I would still end up going to get another one because I kind of like the hardware NPC standalone workflow. And when it comes to recording vocals, I like the idea of being able to track, separate things then. And, it's a workflow that I'm used to. It's a workflow that I love. So I have a lot of different controllers, but I'm still into the hardware stuff. It's just something about the bigness of it, the fullness of it, and just that the limitations too, though. That kind of makes you a little more creative and expands your workflow a little bit.
That's really interesting when you consider the hardware it offers. Not only there's that quantized vibe, which is something that's very specific to, the sound of beats, certain kind of beats, but also the sound of the A to D. So you've got both of those things in the same thing. I hadn't really thought about that, and replacing that is a big ask. Sorry, Gaz.
Nick, I'd just like to. Can I just ask, with the trigger finger, then, is it class compliant MIDI? So could you use it with the iPad, for instance?
You know what? I didn't even check. Check, but I was kind of so tied up with the whole package of Arsenal and what have you. I don't see why not. It may not have enough power because there's a lot of lights on it and a big screen. You probably need to run it through the USB hub to get that, but I guess it's possible. I suppose the thing is you'd have to set everything to be MIDI mode rather than Arsenal or Mackie or Huey, because those things would be kind of irrelevant to most apps on the iPad, right?
Well, the iMPC Pro is going to be out pretty soon, and I think that's going to give MPC users or machine users a real alternative with the iPad. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know until I get my hands on it just how good it'll be. Yeah. Take it away, Corey. Tell me what you think, because I'm interested.
Oh, yeah. I've been checking it out. And what do they have? The MPC Pro Log or something like that? So I've been checking those out a lot. And it looks like, I got to tell you, I was not nice to the original iMPC. I reviewed it. It got like 2.5 stars. And mind you, I don't like doing stars and ratings anymore. I just like to give my opinion and let the people run with that. But at that point, I was giving ratings and stars. And it got 2, maybe 2.5. I was not impressed with it. And I still used it a little bit. But I mean, if they're going to call it an MPC, it needs to have the functionality and the soul of the MPC. You know what I mean? It can't be a stripped down version with the interface that looks like an MPC. And I mean, it's like a Harley Davidson of guys who are into stuff like that, right? People are diehard Harley dudes. MPC heads are the same way. So if you're going to do an iPad app that's that's aimed at saying, hey, MPC dudes, here's something you could throw on your iPad and have that same functionality. Well, it better have the same functionality. And I think, bringing it back around, I think that the iMPC Pro is headed in that direction. And obviously, I haven't gotten my hands on it, so I don't know for sure. But some of the things that I've seen and some of the functionality, it looks good so far. I'd be interested to really see what they've done this time around and how because I mean, they got a lot of complaints. I mean, right. Well, that's what the NPC forums is, right? It's kind of like the stitching bitch. So the guys that are developing those things, they frequent those places and they figure out where they've gone wrong or what they need to do going forward. And I think that Retronyms has probably done that, and it looks like they've stepped up quite a bit.
It's just a shame, it seems, that they've dropped the Fly, the hardware Fly, because that looked like a nice thing. It put it made your iPad embedded into like a hardware MPC kind of thing. But the MPC element, I guess they've had their fingers burnt, haven't they? Because Apple changed the Lightning connector, as we well know, so that the Fly is only a 30-pin, and thus
that's gotta hurt, isn't it?
And they had the warehouse of those things that they had to blow out all of a sudden, right?
Yeah. Ouch.
But I mean, I wonder now if you're running a sort of late version iPad that's a 30-pin, if you could get hold of a Fly and the iMPC Pro software when it drops, then that could be quite a neat little, bundle.
Yeah,
I agree. Hey, as a matter of fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember where I heard this, but it was probably on the video, the iMPC Pro prologue, where I think they said that you can actually buy an element or the Fly, from some part of the application where it'll take you to the website and you can buy one of them. So apparently they're still pushing the Fly, But that's going to be a tough move to keep up with the way Apple changes things with every iteration of the iPad. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, when the first line, the Ren, the Studio, and the Fly were announced, I was most excited about the Fly, because thinking of being mobile and having that sort of like almost pocket MPC you could throw in your bag and be so mobile about it and still be able to flip that out like on a commuter train or on a flight or an airport or something. I was excited about that. I was kind of disappointed to see it didn't really work out.
Well, the iMPC software that was pretty sucky, really, wasn't it? It was not it was not an inspiring place to be.
Like you mean it.
No, not at all.
It's interesting that we're talking about the changing of format connectors. You see what I did there? There's a real because Jem, you brought up an article that came out recently, which was I don't know if I have it here, but it's to do with maybe Apple saying goodbye to the notion of the 3.5mm jack. There's an article here, if I could just get it to load in time for me to switch to it. There we go. It's a speculative one, it's fair to say. It's by a guy called Marco Tabini on Macworld, and he's wondering whether or not it's actually likely to happen, because obviously, as we know, Apple have bought Beats, a major headphone manufacturer, thinking about maybe getting rid of the 3.5-inch jack for headphones. Kind of a scary prospect when you consider, how many sets of buds. I mean, not that it bothers me because I don't own any iOS devices apart from an iPad, but the sort of thing that you can imagine, that they might do just so that they can get control of yet another connector. I don't know, Jem. You brought this one to my attention. What is it that sparked your interest of this particular one? It's a bit of a big deal, right?
Yeah, it was that thing of it's like it's a sort of 3.5mm connector. I sort of view it as sort of like the sky. It's just there. It's in everything that you have that's sort of audio, and it had never occurred to me that might one day not be there. And then there was that sort of thought of well, what do you replace it with? And they're sort of saying maybe it would be part of the Lightning connector or something. And then you think, I had to buy one of those USB DVD drives for all. God forbid, I've got these things called CDs that apparently were supposed to have burnt or thrown away, DVDs and sample libraries and stuff that I sometimes have to just tool out. And it just seems to be sometimes Apple's kind of relenting. And I know progress is a great and marvelous thing, but surely occasionally with something as fundamental as a headphone jack, there should be at least a bit of a cursory glance over the shoulder.
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? I mean, I can understand that. He goes on to say, one of the things is obviously, that stuff gets stuck in the hole. I've had that problem myself. Go to listen to my audio book with stick my 3.5-inch jack in. There's a bit of pocket fluff in there, and it gets forced into the hole, and then finally the connection doesn't make. And you have to get. But there's a tip: if you get a needle, you could just pick it out, and it is possible to extract pocket fluff. I know. Robbie, I'm guessing you might. You probably listen to a lot of stuff on tour. Carrying your stuff. That's your listening device. Yeah. I mean, do you want to?
Well, I mean, I thought it was interesting because what I'd read said that quite a lot of people were quite excited by it because they were saying that they were going to be able to port, digital audio at 48 kilohertz straight out, and you were basically going to bypass having a headphone preamp. So in terms of quality, it would open up the doors for some much higher grade listening. Okay. So that side of it, I'm interested in. I mean, the only pain in the arse with it is that, of course, if you're traveling and say you got a nice pair of headphones that you can use with your iOS device, and then you go on tour and you go on a plane and you want to use your headphones on a plane, what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to plug it into the entertainment system on the plane, so are you going to have two pairs of really nice headphones on the road with you? That kind of thing's a bit annoying.
I don't know if it's been really thought. I mean, this is speculation, isn't it? And also, I mean, okay. So,
but knowing Apple, they'll have an adapter of some sort. Yeah, but that'll be the other part of it. They'll be trying to bleed money out of you by saying like, "Hey, for all is not lost. Here's an adapter until you get on our bus." You know what I mean?
I mean, the headphone jack has been around for a long time, and we've talked about it. So we don't want to get into that usual thing about. The time scale of things, but I mean the headphone jack has been around, like you said, since the dawn of man almost.
1800s for telephone.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean it's not inconceivable to think of a change. But like Jem said, it's just a bit like we've never been confronted with that because it's been around for so long. But I mean,
and also, frankly, I mean there's a couple of other issues here, which is yes, so you get the digital audio coming straight out of the thing. Then, so what? There's going to be somehow a higher quality D to A converter in the thing that's the size of a mini jack in your headphones. I mean, I don't think so.
But they can power it. That's the other thing, isn't it? The other key thing about it is that they've said that they're looking into like noise cancelling stuff, like Bose and other people, and they're going to be able to directly power those kind of things in headphones from the Lightning port, which other headphones have to have like a battery pack with. So it will open up more possible applications for headphones.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
What needs to be reminded, though, I think, is when Apple did the change, the Lightning 30-pin to Lightning port. Now, virtually every other manufacturer, if you bought something that had a slightly unusual connector, you would get a bunch of adapters in the packaging, but not Apple. Apple Apple are very mean in that department. And Forbes magazine published a report where they said that Apple was set to make $1 billion in their first year from the sale of Lightning to 30-pin adapters alone. $1 billion.
Wow.
So you look at the kind of acquisition of Beats, and what was that? Was that
3.3? Yeah,
something like that. Okay, and it's like, well, straight away, they can pull back a load of that just in the Lightning to 3.5 millimeter adapters. A
third of your recoupment. But I have to say, the other thing is, bear in mind, what I find quite interesting. This is the sort of thing that would affect so many people, because everybody listens to their audiobook on the way to work, whatever they may do, and if they are all forced to adopt this new thing, or if they want to use Beats headphones, or however it will, or you can only use Beats headphone with an iOS device. How about that? There's another tie-in. But something as small as insignificant as a 3.5mm jack could actually, if it went really badly wrong, could bring both companies to their knees, which would be really be a bit bizarre thought. I don't know if that would ever happen, but could think of that, a sort of 2-cent plastic molded component could actually be the cause for an enormous amount of dissent, and maybe not buying it. It's interesting.
Let's hope so.
You want
Come on,
I don't know, but it seems to me like it could be considered. It's the perception of it, isn't it? It might be considered to be a very conceited sort of move, and it's like, well, look, guys, don't you have enough money
You're
already?
very Apple.
Yeah. Don't you have
enough?
Very Apple sort of move, right?
Yeah, but sorry, Robbie, was that you?
I was going to
we've all raised our eyebrow every time, haven't we? We've all raised our eyebrow every time they've gone, right, we're getting rid of whatever, we're getting rid of floppy drives, we're getting rid of this, we're getting rid of that, we're on to the new, and we've all gone, oh no, we're going to have to upgrade everything. But everybody eventually just goes with it and moves on.
Well, that's
true.
That's true, but we also got to bear in mind, okay, so we get these new digital, perfect, pristine quality headphones, and we're still listening to the majority of our library in, 128 kbps MP3. So what? Unless then we have to upload, then we have to increase the size of all the audio, then we have to increase the storage on the, it's just it fuels the continual turnover of I must have more new stuff because I can't keep up. It's
hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I like the fact that I could use a pair of £12 headphones, for everything.
Jem. It's that thing with the. I mean, if you were going to, and obviously this is all hearsay at the moment anyway, but it really is. It's a 3.5mm hole. I mean, if they want to get rid of that, they really have run out of things to faff around with.
Yeah, I suppose.
You could have both as an option, but it's just leave it there. It's fine.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, they could roll out Lightning headphones now, couldn't they? I mean, that would be possibly the sensible thing to see what the kind of uptake is. But I mean, it's not the way, is it? It's like we have to get rid of the other option first, so everyone has to do the other option.
One good reason to ditch it, though, is it's always been the weak spot for water getting into your system.
Yeah.
So maybe there is some advantage.
They could release a little eye cap.
Deep sea divers.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not. Yeah, that's true. I tend not to use my electronic listening devices in areas of intense moisture, if I can help it. But I guess there's a point. Anyway, I mean, kind of more a bit of a fun there, and a kind of riffing on the notion that, you know, what would happen if you did want to change absolutely everything. But yeah, wireless again. You know, how about that? Hey, that's not bad. I think I could cope with maybe changing the headphone batteries in my wireless outfit. I don't know. So I think that probably brings us pretty much to the end. Oh, apart from there's a ton of new sounds. Actually, we should just quickly look here. I just wanted to see. Dave Instrumens got 50% off updates, upgrades, and crossgrades for their complete range. This is traditionally summer is when you see a ton of sound libraries, sample packs, plugin updates, and what have you coming in, because it's quiet. But I'm wondering about the wisdom of releasing any kind of new sounds in the summer. I mean, as professional, you know, users of sounds or whatever, when do you tend to think about upgrading your sound library or adding something new to it, and when do you need to do that? What do you, Jem, how do you deal with that? I mean, do you just go, oh, I like the sound of that, I'll do it now, or is there a time of year when you think this is a good time for me to consider, you know, refreshing my palette of sounds or whatever? I mean, obviously you've just bought a load of analog stuff, so you're fine, but generally speaking.
Yeah, I don't know, I tend to be, when I'm doing like media work and sort of writing music for radio stuff, it tends to be I'll suddenly
I need a crump horn. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It'll tend to be, well, if only I had, and then I'll tend to trawl around a bit. So I don't really ever sort of wake up in the morning and think, oh, I had sousaphone. That's what I need sousaphones in my life.
Everybody needs that.
Exactly. And then it tends to be like emails and, you know, people at work would say, oh, have you seen this? Or more importantly, it tends to be professional sonic envy.
Ah, yeah. Well, I guess in the composition world, that's very much the case, isn't it? The having a sound that nobody else has got, or that nobody else has used that much yet, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I mean, I'm tending to use a lot of sounds. I mean, I like with the Rhodes here and the Monopoly and the Prophets, sticking it through things like Guitar Rig, you come up with a whole bunch of sounds that no one's got anyway. So that tends to be, oh, I've given the Kodoma one.
Oh, God, Jem, what have you done? It's all right, I'll edit that out. Maybe.
That's fine, yeah.
Oh, Robbie, how about you? I'm guessing because you have to be careful, don't you? Your rig is working the whole time. You don't want to suddenly just go, oh, I'll just install this massive library and see if it...
I do buy quite a lot of libraries, particularly when I start... If I've got a film project coming up, then I think, right, okay, this is the type of film, you know, I might be, you know, want to kind of expand with this and that. But I kind of tend to do it as I go along, because I think I'd be very scared if I got a list of things that I wanted to buy all year and I bought them in one go. I'd suddenly have a pang of conscience about the amount of money I'd spent. So no, I mean, I try and do it gradually, but I've got certain key companies who I really love their stuff from, and I always take notice when they've got new stuff coming out.
Right. So it's about release time. How about you then, Corey? Where do you kind of... I mean, obviously, you're going to be starting down the modular rabbit hole, so you can spend as much as you like for for almost an indefinite amount of time. But in terms of libraries and those kind of things, how do you kind of tend to work?
Well, you know, when it comes to, say, Native Instrument stuff or even plugins from places like UAD and stuff, that's usually driven by some email that comes out mid-year and in the fall, like late year, because there's huge sales around that time. And what happens is the smaller companies tend to fall in line along with those sales. So it's kind of like this thing that's driven by, you know, the bigger company says, it's half the year is gone, we're offering 50% off. And then I'll notice a lot of the small sound designers will start doing the same thing. But me, it's usually, for my own personal thing, it's usually driven by if I want something new and fresh, or if I'm looking for something, because I tend to grab the same kits over and over. Like once I kind of have a kit that I like, I'll grab that over and over until I realize like I've used the crap out of that. That's enough. Then I'm motivated to go try to find something else. So I mean, it depends on what's happening. I'm always looking for newer and better synth sounds. It can be an addiction onto itself trying to find the perfect Rhodes. But so I mean, it depends. It depends on what's going on. And plus, I keep up with what's coming out new from different sound designers too. So as far as like with hip hop and boom bap and stuff. So if something new and stuff is coming out, or new breaks, new break beat libraries, then I'm always keeping up on that, because, you know, hip hop is driven from kind of that break beat sound. And there's a lot of cats out there doing brand new breaks where they've studied the way vintage music was made or old music was made, and they go and get out vintage equipment and they record fresh new breaks with all of the old equipment. It kind of sounds like that old break sound. So
right.
I pay attention to a lot of that stuff. It depends, though. It really depends on what I have a need for.
Interesting. The chat room is riffing, very enjoying the concept of perhaps a virtual sousaphone, the wearable MIDI controller, the sousaphone ultimately. Yeah, Hiltonius, in fact. Rich is in the chat room. Nice to see you, Rich. Yeah, that sounds like it could be interesting. And of course, the whole concept of there's the Yamaha silent trumpets. Maybe there'll be a Yamaha silent sousaphone, but I'm guessing the convenience of having a sousaphone by its very nature is massively inconvenient, because it's that, if those who don't know what it is, it's that trumpet that you basically wear, it's wrapped around you, and it has a massive, great kind of bell. I know, Gaz, you like the idea of that. You thinking of taking up the sousaphone? Sort of thing that every musician of a certain age should maybe have on the wall somewhere.
Oh, yeah. It's a really funky instrument, the sousaphone. I mean, you can joke about it, but I mean, if you see like Dirty Dozen Brass Band or the Rebirth Brass Band or there's other guys as well. What a funky sound a sousaphone is. So I mean, that really gets me dancing when I hear a sousaphone. So yeah, I mean, joking aside, I think it is a contender for one of the funkiest instruments on the planet.
It certainly goes low, isn't it? I remember there was a band with a guy called Ashley Slater, who was a trombone player, and he did that thing with Norman Cook, didn't he? I can't remember the name of the band, but he toured with a big brass band, and he didn't have a sousaphone. The guy had a tuba, and he mic'd it up and he put it through a bass combo, and it just sounded amazing. Actually, it sounded really good. So yeah, I'm all for that. Maybe we should see if we can. Who can we lobby? Let's find out.
I seem to remember a kid on Fame back in the 80s was very unpopular who played the sousaphone.
Ah, yeah, but all that stuff comes around, goes around. You know, it's like now, since Harry Potter, my daughter wears glasses and we were worried at the stigma. Now she's super cool because she actually wears glasses. You know, and there are loads of kids in her class who actually wear glasses that have clear lenses in them.
Oh, that's a crime, that is.
Yeah, I think so too. Get yourself an eye problem first, then you've earned the right.
The Hypnotic Brass Ensemble, that's who I was trying to think of. Young guys, American band. I think they're all brothers, I think.
Oh, wow.
10 of them all play different brass, but sousaphone. So good. So good.
Awesome.
Well, the best thing is, like as you say, Nick, if you ever find yourself in a motorway service station at 4 in the morning, you can sleep in it.
That's very true. You can curl up and curl around it. Well, I think that's probably a good time for us to stop. There's a couple of people I want to thank. Obviously, I want to say thanks to Rich. I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday, Rich, my guitars editor, wrote a piece about Keith Richards' guitars that he played that weren't Telecasters, and Keith himself retweeted it, and at one point we had nearly 700 people looking at that story at one time yesterday. It had 100,000 page views, that story, in 3 hours yesterday. It was mental, and the server didn't fall over. But the other one I want to thank is Carlos, I hope I pronounced this right, Sancha-Draves, who is sending us a little MIDI control project that I think will run on Raspberry Pi. Mine's not here at the moment, but it was a sort of thank you to him for this show, so from him for this show. So I want to say thanks to Carlos. I will check that. I think he's in the chat room as well. So yes, big props. Thank you very much. But now we're going to say goodbye to our panel. We'll start with you, Gaz. Thanks very much for coming in. Girl, your bass tree's growing. Have you been watering it?
Yeah, we've got another one coming as well this week.
Another tree or another bass?
Another bass, and I'm gonna string it as a piccolo bass, which is an octave higher. So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool, that sounds good.
And a mini rig, look.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got it.
The mini rig sub.
Oh, right, cool.
So the mini rig.
Oh, yeah, we saw, that's the little powered thing.
Little one.
The sub.
And then the mini rig sub, which is ported at one end and got the speaker. So it looks just like, they look exactly the same.
Comes with luggage as well. I mean, what's not to like?
But, if you're looking for a mobile rig, wow. I mean, it just sounds great when you put synths through it. It really
I'm
doesn't.
going to have to check that out, guys. I know they're Bristol-based. Are they Bristol-based? I think they are as well.
So, but there's analog limiters in them. They're built like almost like mini battery-powered
bus.
PAs.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Gaz. GazWilliams.me. Do check him out. And Gaz will be appearing in a Bitwig special quite soon on Sonic State. I was running out today. And, of course, thank you very much, Robbie Bronneman, who is between gigs. You're not playing Glastonbury this weekend, then?
No, but I'll hear it from where I am.
Yeah, that's probably true. Or the rain. Apparently it's going to rain. I'm supposed to be going camping this weekend, so not at Glastonbury, so I know it's going to rain. Anyway, Robbie, thank you very much for joining us as well.
All right.
Pleasure to have you. And Jem Godfrey, also, thank you very much for joining us. It's great to have you back anytime you're around. I know you're a busy guy, so somehow our Wednesdays have conspired to keep you away from us, but do come back soon.
I just say I'm busy. I'm not actually.
Yeah, well, or either that. Just nod and smile, and we'll say no
Thank you
more
very
about it. Cheers. And of course, Corey Banks over there in the west coast of the States. B-Boy Tech Report. You can check out his writings on music technology. Thank you very much for joining me too, and I hope your furniture arrived okay.
Yeah, it did actually. I don't know if you guys heard the dog barking when the delivery guys got here, but yeah, it's all good now.
Excellent.
But yeah, thanks for having me, man. I look forward to being back again next week, and I'll try to make it more often. Got a couple of reviews coming up. I don't know if anybody's interested in this guy.
MPK 249, is that the one with the CV and gate output? Or was that?
Oh no, actually, it's not. It's just the 249, the upgrade from the 49, which I used for years exclusively when I sold all my gear. So I'm interested to check this out. So I got a little bit of work ahead of me and with reviews, but there's, stay tuned. And for those that frequent the site, bear with me. I'm a guy that works and goes to school and, does blogging and family man. So, I'll get it all done. Bear with me.
Thank you very much, Corey, and thank you very much to everybody. Thanks to all in the chat room, of course. And just before we go, I said I would mention the competition again. iZotope, of course, sponsored the show. If you want to win a copy of iZotope Iris, you need to tweet the hashtag sound design, that's 2 Ds, to @SonicNick and @iZotope Inc. And we will pick a random winner from the all of the people. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe. It's very important that we build our subscriber numbers. It gives us some more kudos, makes me feel loved. Not that I don't feel loved anyway, but I want to get the numbers up. I want to get a YouTube plug, so subscribe. And if you know anyone else, subscribe for them. If you've got access to their account, subscribe for them. They won't notice. Anyway, thank you very much. That's it for this week. We will now fade to black and see you later. Bye.